Welcome home, neighbors.
Welcome home, neighbors.
Hello, neighbors.
We're listening from
Arizona,
Florida,
Maryland, New York,
New Jersey,
Minneapolis,
California,
Utah,
Michigan,
Iowa, Massachusetts,
Georgia,
Canada,
our home resort is
Animal Kingdom,
Polynesia,
Bay Lake Tower,
Old Key West,
Riviera,
Boardwalk,
Alani Resort,
Hilton Head,
Boulder Ridge, Copper Creek,
Grand Floridian,
Saratoga Springs,
Beach Club,
and Wilderness Lodge.
and you're listening to
You're listening to my
DVC Points.
Well, welcome everybody to my DVC Points Community Hall. I'm Mary Ann and I'm your host tonight. And we are so excited to talk about DVC Through the Generations. But first, I have to thank our sponsors tonight. And they're the reason I get to have DVC for generations. Tonight, I get to thank DVC Resale Market. Thanks to our friends there who hook us all up with contracts so that we can stay again and again and again in the magic for years to come, whether those stays involve parks or beaches or even just really great hotel rooms with really great dining right there and cool pools to swim in and golf courses. We are all very blessed to be able to stay in my DVC or in DVC resorts, and DVC Resale Market is the reason for a lot of us. So thanks so much, guys, for being there for our community tonight. And I bet I have a few friends here with me tonight. Let's see. Oh, friend number one is Ron.
Hello, Mary Ann.
Hello, Ron. I'm so glad you're here. And I wonder if friends number 2 and 3, they are. Dan and Holly are here tonight.
Oh, we're so excited to be here.
I'm so glad to have all of you here. And I picked this group of people for a really specific reason. This group of people are people I know travel to Walt Disney World with multiple generations in their family. And they are very experienced in this. And so I thought we would talk a little bit about what it's like to travel with multiple generations and what it's like to invest in vacations for a lifetime with those generations when we start out being the younger end of the generation and become the older end of the generation through the years of our contracts. So our first question tonight is, did you buy your DVC contracts with future generations in mind? And my friend Ron, would you like to go first?
I sure would. When it comes to buying DVC and with future generations in mind, 1000%. We weren't really introduced to DVC. I shared this with Chad on a podcast a couple years back. We didn't really know about DVC until about 2015 when my brother-in-law took the whole family on a trip, and we kind of inquired as to how the heck did you pull this off, because we know what Disney costs. So what he did and how long we were there and the accommodations we had, it was kind of being a finance guy, I'm like, okay, this is a lot. How what did you do? How did you what'd you maneuver? So
wait.
Yeah.
What job did you pick up on the side with the mafia to make this happen, right?
Right. Yeah. What are you doing off the books, right? How many people did you have to whack? Whatever the key is here. What did you do? Because Uber's not going to. No. So the thing was that's what sparked my interest when he went into a little bit of detail about it. So from that point forward, it's always been on my radar. Jackie has always wanted to become a DVC member since finding out about it, but we were able to finally pull the trigger in 2020. And one of the reasons we did is because we had found out that we were going to become grandparents, and that kind of set the DVC conversation from more on the back burner into the front of the conversation. So when it comes to actually finally going through DVC Resale Market for our first contract as well, thank you, Jody, making sure that we got all the information, did a lot of research, got it, because we knew that grandchildren, no matter what the case would be, we wanted to be able to provide these magical trips for them as many times and for as long as we're here. So absolutely was probably the main reason we ended up finally pulling the trigger and getting DVC. How about you, Holly and Dan?
I would say yes, because I mean, I think the trip that really sealed the deal for us, we were on a multi-generational trip at Pop Century, and that was quite a tight fit. There, we had adjoining rooms with that, but it was just at that point we had 2 unpacking plays and we had 2 strollers, one a double and a single stroller in the room with us. So as soon as that Murphy bed went down, we were crawling over beds, and I'm like, man, I paid like $5,000 for this trip this week, and I'm crawling over a bed. Yeah. So
you did a little research.
Yeah, that's really what kind of got the ball rolling a lot. Now, I knew a guy from work who he was a retired guy that worked at the park that I worked at, and he was telling us about he's the one that kind of introduced me to DVC a little bit, and you know, he kept telling me, I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to do it. And all we were telling him was like, man, that's a lot of money. And he said, well, my financial advisor told me no, but I told him to deposit the money anyways. And he bought it. And, you know, he was able to take his family. Unfortunately, like right after he found out that he bought it, he came down with an aggressive form of cancer, but he was able to get that one trip with his whole family. And there was like 18 of them. And so that's a big deal, you know, and so it was like that kind of like, that was his dream. He was able to do that. He did it. And now his family still gets to enjoy that. Right. Even though, you know, he's no longer with us. So shortly after that, we went ahead and we took that trip and we're like, I get it. I see what he's doing. So, and we went ahead and we purchased our first contract, and we were like, we know we'll get at least another one. And so
as soon as we found out we were expecting another child,
then we were like, oh no, now
COVID
we gotta get more.
hit and prices bottomed out. So then we bought direct first, and then we went through resale market with Jody also, and she helped us get our second contract. So
and even though like, so yeah, we could pass it along to the kids later in life, but also when the kids have their kids, you know, that'll be fun for us.
But I feel like we're still young enough, like we'll be able to use a lot of our contract too.
Oh, for sure.
So, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
How about you, Megan?
Well, unlike all of you, no forethought whatsoever. No forethought about the future whatsoever. We had been on multiple multi-generational trips to Disney with my family, and we had such a great time. And one trip we had stayed at the Polynesian the week between Christmas and New Year's. People, we paid rack rate.
Oh boy.
We paid rack rate because we booked it so late. And when I talked to the DVC guy the next summer, he said, you know what you paid for that week would have bought you a contract.
Yeah.
Right.
And I went, what? And the only reason I went to the meeting in the first place is I needed free fast passes because I was staying off property that trip. So I needed fast passes. And then I was like, really?
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay. And lots of things had happened in my family's life in that summer, and my mom had passed. And we had the opportunity to be able to buy DVC with cash. Because there was no way my husband was ever going to finance it. And so I was able to pay cash for all 3 contracts that I own, and no forethought over about the future. But my husband, he finally looked at me at one point and he goes, you know, we don't have to go to Disney every year. We can go every other year because someday we're going to take our grandkids. And I went, oh, yes, we will. We will take grandkids to Disney. And so, but yes, no, I did not buy my DVC contracts at all. My thing was we would ride the boats past the Polynesian, past all the bungalows, and I was like, I want to stay there. Had I known, wow, how much it was going to cost me in points to stay there.
You know, when we first bought in, the idea wasn't so much saving money. Like we knew that we could probably stay there less money than buying in the DVC.
Or even come out even.
But we were like, we're going to have much better accommodations. But with the way the rates have like skyrocketed now, I mean, there's no way you can stay where you were, because the first multi-generational trip that we went on, we brought my parents. It was Noah's and just Noah at the time and us, and we stayed in Art Animation Suite. But when we looked into doing that with when we took Holly's mom and there was two other kids,
triple what we paid.
It was unbelievable, and that was only within like a 3-year span. So
and those suites are little itty bitty tiny. I mean, they shouldn't even call those suites.
I mean, they basically put a wall and a door up and called it a suite. The nice thing is there's 2 bathrooms, right? So
and 3
that helped in the mornings. But
so you have the right plan when everybody in your real home, not our welcome home, but everybody in your real home keeps asking you, how the hell do you go to Disney so often?
Right.
Yes.
Because they'll price it out, or they went a couple years ago and they know what it cost them, and they see us going on these trips with all these different people, and that's the question. The continual question is, how do you do it? And I say, well, let me tell you how we do it. And I introduce them to the.
I mean, we get it from family too, like even extended family. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've been sending contract links to some certain people who've been to Disney like 4 times between Land and World in the last year, and I'm like, kids, you don't have to buy a big one, but you guys really should just buy one at this point. But yeah, I think that, but I do think that people in our community, Gina, do we have anybody in our community that has any Patricia, same as Ron. I bought in when my grandson Miles was 18 months. Now he is 9. And I bet she's made so many great memories with him.
Absolutely.
So many. Linda, since 2000, Boardwalk Villas, small grands are now adults. Oh, and yes, we did buy with all the family in mind, 300 points. And she does all the planning for 12.
Wow.
I hear that.
Good for you, Linda. Frederica, I think very different. It's very different for West Coasters. I bet it is different for West Coasters because they don't stay the long-term stays and they bop in and bop out. So,
but I could see if they got a taste of DVC out there, and maybe, I mean, because there's barely any representation out there right now. I mean, when that tower opens up, and if you're able to stay there, and even if you don't go the Disneyland or DCA, there's still other things really close in that area that you can do. It's just
Alani
fantastic.
is not that far. If you're West Coaster, Alani is not that far.
Right. And Alani is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And Frederica says she's taken her daughter and her sister and her best friend. And since her daughter's, since then her daughter's sister-in-law, and his kids. All right. Yeah. I can't read tonight.
The West Coast, real quick, before the West Coast, it's nice to see them getting some DVC love with the member lounge opening up now. I saw the date popped open that they're going to be open in April here. I think that will give a little more, like you said, Dan, a little more attention to DVC out there with the tower and now with the member lounge. And then they'll see now that there's actually going to be rooms for us Midwesterners and East Coast people to go to California and actually be able to get a room, maybe at the tower. Maybe. So that'll bring an emphasis to it. I think it will help the exposure out there a little bit better.
Absolutely.
So, Frederica, hopefully that happens.
Tommy, my first contract is at Riviera with 50 years and grandkids in mind, and I will be 87 when it ends.
I think that's how old we'll be.
That was our thought when we bought Copper Creek. Yeah.
I want my children to take me around in the wheelchair. And, I want to be the 90-year-old grandma that everybody goes, oh, isn't she cute? I want to be that lady. Frederica bought Alani first and then Grand Cal, and now go to Walt Disney World more than Disneyland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Son-in-law. I get it now. There we go. I can't read. It's okay. So our next question tonight is best tips for successful multi-generational trips.
This is tough.
It's a unique kind of trip. It really
Oh.
is.
It matters
I-
what side of the family you're going with.
And there is some negotiating on whether it's your in-law side or your side of the family. So, Ron, what some tips that you have for us?
First, let me set my timer so I don't go over with all the tips that you need for this. But when you're taking multiple generations, and you guys, all kidding aside, it really does matter who they are, and it doesn't matter whether it's your side of the family, an in-law side of the family. It just matters the personalities of the people going and the habits of the people going. So for us, probably the most successful trips that we've done, and it hasn't been a ton, but there have been multiple. The key to having a good trip is in just an immense amount of pre-planning. And when I say pre-planning, I'm talking about getting everybody together, whether it be via phone, conference call, get together in person. If you're from different states, things like this, Zoom calls, just get everybody together, because similar to, I think it was Frederick, whoever said that they do all the planning, that's me when it comes to the trips as well. So my main goal when setting up these trips for the multiple generations is managing the expectations of everyone going, except for those young enough where they don't even know what to expect. They just want everything all the time and give it to them now. But other than that, managing expectations, setting clear and kind of precise goals as to what we want to have happen on the trip. Now, when I say getting together and planning it, it could be as simple as, well, what kind of resort do you want to stay in? Some people don't like Grand Floridian because they think it's too snotty. Some people maybe don't want to stay at Wilderness Lodge because it's too outdoors. Everybody has strong opinions and personalities. So kind of getting everybody together, giving them our advice, knowing that we've been there and experienced all these places, to let them know what to expect. It could be as complex as, okay, we're going to have 2 scooters on this trip because we have 2 of the people going that just can't do parks all day. So they're going to need scooters. So I may have to give up staying at an old Key West or a Saratoga, because we both know there's only 2 scooters that fit on every bus. So you could be spending a lot of time in transportation. Transportation matters. Skyliner and monorails and bigger boats, not the little boats, can all accommodate the scooters. So we would stay or plan to stay at a resort that has more transportation options that are scooter friendly. Making sure that you pre-order groceries, because for kids or the adults or the grandparents or the great grands, if they get up real early and they want a snack, you want to make sure you have things for them, and not everybody is waiting on each other. And I think that right there, my final thought on it is making sure that everyone knows, well, it also depends on the experience level of the people going with you, because if you've got newbies or people who aren't as familiar with how Disney works, then you do have to be more involved with everything. But if you've got people who've been there a couple times and they kind of know the ropes now, it's okay to split up. It's okay that some people go to the park at rope drop and some people don't want to get there till noon, when the people from rope drop are coming back to swim, so that the kids don't have a meltdown at 1 o'clock in the 90-degree heat. So just, a lot of different things to take into account when it's not just multiple people, but multiple different age levels and generations. So we could write a book on it. There's so many, but I know I touched on a lot of things. Dan and Holly, what do you guys do for success?
Yeah, you knocked it out of the ballpark.
Yeah,
you got a lot of it there. So,
you hit all of our bullet points.
but I mean,
sorry.
No, you're good. I think one of the first mistakes that we made before we were DVC is that we had our expectations and we thought they were along for the ride, right? And then we quickly found out that there was expectations for shopping time, there was expectations for pool time, and that just didn't
sleeping in time.
Sleeping in, that just didn't fit into our fear of missing out syndromes that we had before we were DVC. So now that we're DVC and we've done some multiple trips, I mean, even our kids, they know, oh, it's fine. we'll get it next time. You know, they're not as, I mean, of course they want to do the thing they see right there, but they're not as, you know, they're not going to be as disappointed. And I think, you know, setting the expectations and letting people know that if you really want to do all this, you have to do this to get there. And I think, you know, planning ahead is a huge deal. And Holly does all that planning ahead. And, you know, a lot of times the family that we've taken has been kind of like, they're not as experienced with the parks and all that. So they're good, kind of hands off. And we'll have some pre-trip
meetings,
YouTube sessions where like, this is the restaurant we're going to, and we'll watch a review. And this is, you know, these are what we're going to do, and this is what you need to kind of plan for.
Yeah, I mean, we go as in detail as like looking at the menus of the restaurant.
Yes.
Is this something that you are interested in eating? We're giving a couple of choices, saying here at Magic Kingdom, these are a couple of the places that we like to go to. Look through the menus, pick which one you think that you guys would like to try.
Right.
Yeah.
And with, you know, with the little ones that we have, we don't always make it to the end of the night. So, you know, we find out, do you want to do the nighttime shows? Because if you do, we'll adjust and we'll know that we'll split up, or one of us will leave the rental car and the other ones will go back on the transportation. So getting to find out what their must-dos are and then explaining to them, you know, what you have to do and to hit all those is really important. And you know, sometimes if they don't know they're going to miss out on it,
it doesn't matter.
You can kind of steer them away from that too. But like with the pre-planning as well, you know, get your app set up and get, you know, because if you do have to buy those lightning lanes, or if you're going to do those Genie Pluses, you want to make sure you have those all in line before you have to do any of those virtual queues, because as we all know, that can make and break some trips, and your timing, that's the hard thing with them, right? When you don't get to pick your time, that can adjust your whole day.
Or if you have to split up, they know how to use the app. They know how to use their magic bands. They know a general idea of how to use the transportation to get around. Just kind of basic education, Disney 101.
Disney 101.
And Holly, when you mentioned the menus, we did that on this most recent trip we just returned from in advance, because not only does it give them an idea of what the cuisine is like and if there's things that they'll like, but then they also don't get that sticker shock, right, Dan? I saw you just doing the money side. Because then they understand, you know, what it's going to be and what they need to plan for. Because you know, I love them, and I'll provide accommodations, and I'd probably pay for their meals too if they needed me to. But at the end of the day, you know, nobody's expecting that. So it's pretty cool when you can have it all set in advance to where everybody knows what's going on. And it's funny too, if you're there long enough, they get acclimated to the Holly. They get acclimated to the transportation. They get familiar with the resort and how to get there and how to get there. So it's kind of fun to see that happen as well. So
and sometimes it's nice to pixie dust them too a little bit. Like if you got a smaller group, like if they don't know, buy the Genie Plus for them and just book everything.
Correct.
Because I know, like we took one group and they're like, "How are we getting in on all these things?" They're like, "Don't worry about it. It's fine. We got to take it care of." So you know, they were less experienced with the app and all that stuff, and we were like, we know we want to do this time, so we just went ahead and we bought it ahead of time, and because we knew we would be able to do so much more for them for that. So do a little pixie dust for your group once in a while.
Yep.
You guys hit everything but a few of my thoughts about a multi-generational trip. We went on an 18-day trip where we did a 7-day cruise first. We did a 7-day cruise first. And then we were at Disney between Christmas and New Year's as a family. So you could just imagine, right? You can just imagine.
I have anxiety just listening to you, Marianne. It's giving me anxiety.
And it was a little bit of, we didn't know what we didn't know, because it was early on in our Disney experiences as a multi-generation trip. But my mom also had pretty active cancer at the time.
Oh,
So, one of the things that I suggest for all multi-generational trips is remember you can only go as fast as your weakest member.
yes, yes.
And when everybody else is pushing because they want to do it all, you have to remember that that weakest member maybe can't move that fast. And so that may be number one reason why it's okay to split up. And, you know, we spent a lot of time that week with my mom and I and my youngest, Katie, who is now a big kid, right? But at the time she was little, the three of us doing things at mom and Katie's pace, which was very different than my teenagers and my husband and my sister's pace, who were go, 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 like frantically go, 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 go. And that was back in the day of paper fast passes, so life was a little easier for them. And I taught them how to do it, and I set them up with, here's the order you should do things in. Go. Go. Right. So it, you know, it was different, but that is probably one of the most important things to keep in mind is that you will only be able to go that fast. Number two is when you're planning and you're having those big planning meetings, you're always going to have the person who brings in the 5-page list, and you look at it and you go, you just copied and pasted that straight from the website. That's like the map written down. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So we call it the ride or die list. It can only have 4 things on it for that day.
Right.
Because if I'm planning a multi-generational trip, it's probably got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people on it. And it's only reasonable that you're going to get to do 4 of your things in a day. And that's probably with splitting up a little bit to make it happen. Now, of course, on our trip that we're going on here the next few weeks, we're taking 12 people. It's a friends and family multi-generational kind of trip. And everybody's ride or die at Magic Kingdom has Tron on it. Every single person. Well, that makes that easy, right?
Right.
But then I've got my people who need to see all the princesses. I got my thrill riding junkies, and I've got my shoppers, and I've got my Dole Whip or Die people.
Yeah.
And we all know the line at Aloha Isle, even with a mobile order, can be right.
Right.
So, I mean, we're everybody's stuff, and it's all very important.
Yep.
So I've been like, 4 things on your list.
Yep.
4 things.
Setting
And I will
expectations.
And I will make it. I mean, we will make it happen. You know, over the course of a couple of days in each park, we will make it happen. And the other thing is that you can't go at that breakneck pace that your independent family can go at, because people need to pee and people need to eat.
That is very good. When you go to the bathroom, everybody goes.
Yes.
Everybody goes.
And
Just try.
And I'm just talking from the gray-haired department here. I have to pee more often now than I did 10 years ago. And my mother had to pee a lot more than I do now. And it's not fair of me to go at a pace that I'm asking someone who would be uncomfortable telling me, hey, Marianne, I've got to stop and go to the bathroom. Because if it's my mother-in-law, she might not be comfortable saying, hey, Marianne. Well, actually, my mother-in-law would have no problems with it. But I'm just saying your mother-in-law might be like, you know, or, you know, my feet really hurt. I just can't do this anymore. Or I shouldn't have been the man that said I can do this at 70 years old. I don't need a scooter. I'm a man. Ooh, he might have needed that scooter, right? And he didn't want that scooter. So you have to keep that in mind, because we're all kind of used to taking our little people, and we know about how far we can push our little people. That other end is kind of the same story. Yeah. With maybe a little more stubbornness involved and a lot more pride.
Yeah, and those are a lot of great points, Marianne, especially the scooter thing, because you get a guy who's never had to be reliant on anyone and always been very strong and independent, and and here you go, and putting it into real terms, because even on some of the trips with this, listen, nobody wants a scooter, right? But if you
No.
want to enjoy your time, and if you want to maximize and make it the most efficient,
Yeah.
and I put it in real life terms. When Jackie and I go, if we're by ourselves, we will walk over 20 miles a day.
Yeah.
A day.
We're not
And they're
lying
like,
when we
they're like,
say.
what? I'm like, yeah. So it's not a matter of weakness. You're not weak because you want a scooter. You want to enjoy your time. That's what it's all about. And
That's
one other
not
thing, because
normal.
you touched on it, Marianne, and Dan, you said something earlier about a coworker about illnesses. One of the other things, especially multi-generational trips, are stop for the pictures. Just take a minute and stop for the pictures. Buy the PhotoPass. Stop for the pictures, because you don't know. And I have goosebumps thinking about this. You don't know if it's the last trip someone may be on, and maybe it's not the grandparent. Maybe it's you. So don't shortchange the memories while you're there, while you have them with professional photographers for such a reasonable amount of money.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's probably one of the best things if you're going with one of those multi-generational trips. It may be really worth it to be online as early as humanly possible with Disney PhotoPass to get one of those capture the memories packages.
Oh yeah.
Because they're very inexpensive, and
Yeah.
you get a nice 20 minutes of family photos.
Yeah.
Without people in the background,
Right.
because they do a little better job, I think, than
They do.
just the average PhotoPass guy that you stop at in front of the Tree of Life, right?
We did back-to-backs too, and you can schedule back-to-backs, and then you don't even get 40 minutes. You get like 50 minutes, because they generally schedule a 10-minute window of time to get back up to town hall and then back to the location again. So you get a lot of time if you schedule back-to-backs. It's a really good value. Just a little trick there for you.
There you go. There you go. Somebody who's done it. So,
Multiple
but
times.
yes, and again, I don't think that it is unreasonable at all to plan for resort time on these multi-generational trips.
No, sure.
I know everybody goes and they think that they can't survive without every minute, in the parks. I get that, because let's be real, I'm like that too. But I think there's something lovely about the evening spent at your resort, having dinner as a family we have those condos for a reason, people, with those kitchens. Having dinner together, playing cards,
Dice.
hanging out at the pool. I'm going to guess when you go back that your kids' very best memories are going to be those. Because my children will tell you, having lost their grandmother, that they traveled with their entire childhood, that their best memories were playing cards on the side of the Lido deck while everybody else was being crazy on the cruise ship. Or
is that the Love Boat, the Lido deck?
Yeah, they all call them the Lido deck on those boats. But we literally the family had all these tables pulled together and we were playing cards.
Yeah.
And everybody else is dancing and partying and we're playing cards. And sitting on our beds in our pajamas watching New Year's Eve fireworks instead of being out amongst the craziness on New Year's Eve trying to watch fireworks. And I think it was the most magical moment for all of them, for the kids, for my mom, for my sister, for all of us to go back and look at that time spent just us without the crowds.
We have
and DVC has afforded it to us.
Yeah. We have a kind of an unwritten rule where we try to do one day on, one day off. So if we're at a park, then we take the next day off and then we go back to a park. Worst case scenario, if you do 2 park days, no more than 2 in a row, then you have an off day. And then if you've got a shorter trip, especially with the multiple generations, because everybody needs that rest day. And there's so much with being DVC, like you just said, there is so much to do and so many amenities at the resorts. Like you said, a lot of the kids, they still think they're at Disney. I mean, it's not all about the theme park, because they've got the community halls. They've got the movies on the green or in the park, and the campfires and the s'more. I mean, it's all part of one day on, one day off is an unwritten rule.
the food at the resorts is outstanding.
Amazing.
It is.
You take a trip over and do hoop-de-doo. I mean, that's the highlight of anyone's day. So
Yeah.
We loved it.
I mean,
Well, and I think the funny things, those funny moments happen on those days. I'll never forget Jake Anthony telling the story about him and his mom dying to rent a Surrey bike. And they were so excited to rent a Surrey bike. And so they did it, and it was hotter than Hades. But darn it, they rented that Surrey bike, and they were going to make have the best time. And it was so miserable. But yet they tell the story with great guffaws of giggling.
right.
Mhm.
Because again, it was a moment that wasn't in waiting in line
Sure.
for the newest, fastest, bestest ride at Disney World.
Yeah.
I'll spend an afternoon outside of Geyser Point any day.
Oh my
Amen.
gosh.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah.
Beautiful out there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so that's the best part about having DVC, I think. So, but I think we've given lots of tips. Wonder what our community has to say. I wonder if there lots of bathrooms.
Yes.
I think we saw all of them at Disneyland and DCA.
Gina says, my best advice is don't be afraid to split up. Some people want to go early or stay late. Let everyone have their must-dos get done.
Don't worry, Aunt Gina. We'll let you come late and we'll let you leave early.
It's my vacation too, and I believe
Right,
that this is
That would be
Jackie.
Jackie. Yeah, that's my wife.
That's one of our favorite phrases. It's my vacation too.
Yep.
People need to weigh in because it is their vacation too.
Right.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Linda says, we discuss what to do, ADRs, tickets. Funny, we all live close by. Good tips, Ron. Also, be free to do what you want to do.
Sure.
That's exactly right. Don't feel like y'all have to stick together all day.
Mhm.
USC Greg. He's got to wake up at 3 a.m. to do ADRs tonight. Pretty sure grandma won't do this. That's why she's got you, Greg. Bonnie says, for our first multi-generational trip in December with my family, we had my 1-year-old niece with us and my parents. So we took it easy. Just did a resort only stay for 3 nights and resort hopped and looked at all the decorations.
Yep.
Oh, and in December, that's the perfect time to
great
do
time.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We made sure we did one character dining and then
Right.
ended our trip with a party at the Christmas party at Magic Kingdom. Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, if you can do that, I mean, that's an excellent trip.
Yeah. And what a great pace that
Mhm.
everybody had a good time.
Yeah.
Caleb says sometimes you have to remind each other of how they are putting pressure on the slower members of the group to do everything.
Mhm.
Yep. Because it's a lot of pressure on the slower members. Piano Manzano 25. We like bringing a grandparent or two when we can. They're always happy to come and go with the flow. Plus, they love to babysit, which is great for rope dropping or for a date night in the park. Absolutely. Kathy says, we just did a multi-generational trip and it was a little chaotic, but we didn't stick together and it was still okay.
Yeah.
It's always a little chaotic for I feel like, when you take more than just the people that live in your house, it becomes a little more chaotic.
Right. I mean, have a plan and be
Flexible
to know that it probably won't work out.
That's right. This Facebook user sounds a lot like our friend Sandy. Sandy says, we love resort time. Wait, can I do it like a Canadian Sandy? We love resort time. That's what we love most about Hilton Head Island, Vero Beach, and Alani. And she loves her beach resorts.
Yeah. And Alani is a great resort for resort time. I mean,
absolutely.
Our kids, if I've asked them after our trip, I said, would you rather go back to Alani or Walt Disney World? And every single one said Hawaii. Alani.
Wow.
So when we go back, we're taking my dad and my stepmom with us. So our first multi-generational trip to Alani.
That's going to be lovely. Oh, yes.
Gina.
Yeah, and
She's
Gina
gonna
might
get
join
And
us.
Aunt Gina. All right. And do we have one more thing? Making wishes of all generations come true. What would that mean to you, Ron?
It, it means everything. I mean, if you think about it, because that's the whole reason that we got into this. I talked in the pre-show a little bit about finally being able to, in the end of October, beginning of November, get my mom down there. My mom has never been to Walt Disney World, and we had a big, huge, awesome trip planned when COVID hit, and that kind of put that and derailed that. And it was going to be her 75th birthday present. Obviously now it's going to be her 78th birthday present, but with that being said, it is a dream of hers to get down there. And the fact that Jackie and I have the ability to at least provide some of that means more to me than any money that was spent on it or any money that will be spent on the trip. When I talked earlier too about was it an inspiration, when future generations, were they an inspiration for buying DVC? 1,000%. With my kids, my granddaughter, my other granddaughter on the way, and hopefully many, many more to come if God blesses us with many grandchildren, knowing that we can give them those opportunities and those experiences and create those memories so long after we're gone from this earth that they can look back on those pictures, those videos, have those memories, maybe depending upon how long it is and how long the contracts are, taking those trips when we're not able to any longer because we're gone, but because they were willed down to them or handed down to them through the generations. So DVC just naturally makes wishes come true for generations to come and generations before. So to me, that the trips are great, but making people happy and being a part of them, being a part of the experience that they can have because we made that decision. That's everything. That's just this right here. That's it.
Yeah,
That's all of it.
absolutely. Dan and Holly?
I mean, I think for me, one of the things that I want to do is be able to take some nieces and nephews on solo trips. Well, with our family, like take one or two with our family, if their whole family can't go, because it is a big it's a lot to take a whole family. And then, being able to add another one to a room with us, and covering that for maybe special occasions when they turn 16 or graduate high school, they get to go. We get to be the fun aunt and uncle and take them to Disney, and all that stuff. And, we've been blessed to be able to, our kids have gone a lot of times. So we've made a lot of great memories with DVC that we never would have been able to do before. So, but I think that's kind of what I would want to do.
I've loved that we've been able to take all of our parents now.
Yeah.
We took Dan's parents joined us on Noah's first trip. Then my mom came on Abby and Simon's first trip. And then my dad and stepmom came with us on Micah's first trip. So they've all joined us for a different child's first trip. That's kind of, I've loved watching our children grow through Disney, but I've also loved watching grandparents grow to love it almost as much as we do and experience it with their grandchildren.
Yeah, that was the coolest thing when my dad went. He didn't tell us this, but I heard him talking to his brothers at the Christmas after our trip, and he's like, "It makes you feel like you're a kid. It's so cool." And it's like he would never admit to that to us, but I heard him talk about it.
How awesome!
Yeah.
I think that this goes back to my grandmother took me to Disney by myself. She took me when I was a senior in high school. I got to pick anywhere in the world I wanted to go. And I chose Disney World because that's who I am. And we spent a week making memories that I wouldn't have gotten to make with her necessarily at home. She lived across the street, you would think, right? That we could have made those memories at home. But I made memories with her that none of my cousins did, that none of my siblings did. They were just my memories. And what a precious gift that was for me and her. I am so excited that someday I'm going to be able to make those kind of memories with my own children. And I'm going to be that grandma who takes you one time, just you, to Disney World. And DVC is going to make that possible. And it wouldn't have been possible without DVC. And, Ron and Dan and Holly, you're right. I've enjoyed being able to be the aunt who took my nephew who hadn't gotten to go. Last year, he went with us, and he even got to go on a VIP tour. I mean, he got to go on a trip, right? And I've gotten to take my sister multiple times, and and this summer I'm getting the opportunity to take these sweet, sweet families who I love and adore, and their children are just like my own. And I am so excited to be able to take Cha-Cha to Space 220 Lounge because she's my 10-year-old space nut. And I'm so excited to watch Sutton build his lightsaber. And I'm so excited to be there when Nettie gets to meet Jasmine. I've just those things alone. I've had all these fun experiences with my own children, and now I get to have them with everybody else's kids. And it's because of DVC.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you nailed it. Marianne, if I could just add to that, when people will ask, after they ask, how the hell do you go so often? Like I said earlier, they say, don't you get bored of it? I mean, what do you do? Well, number one, it's ever changing. I mean, that was Walt's biggest point, that it's never done. It's never complete. It's always going to be changing. And number two, even when it's not your own flesh and blood, like the nieces and nephews and your own kids, I still get such an enjoyment and a satisfaction. And Jackie will tell you this, just walking down Main Street or walking into the Princesses while we're waiting in line to take pictures, and just the reactions of other people's children, and not just the kids, but the adults. I mean, literal tears in their eyes, because maybe it's the first time they're doing it. And some of the things, I don't want to say we take for granted, but we have done over and over again. So maybe it doesn't feel as special. Well, guess what? There's your slap in the face reminder that this is pretty freaking awesome. So don't take it for granted, and live in the moment and really, really enjoy it. And to be able to share that, blessed beyond measure.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining me tonight to talk about this topic. I think it's just such a blessing that we have through DVC to be able to bless our families for generations to come. And hey, I want to thank one more time DVC Resale Market for feeding this addiction so that we can keep taking these generations. And as we add more and more grandkids, Ron, add more and more contracts, right? Because you're going to have to have places to put them all.
Take my money. Take my money.
Thank you, DVC Resale Market, for sponsoring us tonight. And just a little bit of housekeeping. Next week, it's Easter Sunday, so we are not going to be here. Enjoy making memories with your family on Easter Sunday, because my DVC Points Community Hall will not be here. So thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
Bye.